Today I saw a sight no human being has ever laid eyes on. A region in the great Alaskan wilderness, laid bare by a volcanic eruption. The utter devastation will make further exploration difficult. My team and I are running low on supplies. This evening I have left base camp alone to do some scouting. I have not seen an animal or any living creature since entering the blast zone. Tomorrow we hope to send an expedition out from the base camp. I'm overwhelmed by the amazing power of one volcano to completely change the entire landscape. We have pitched our tent away from the danger of avalanche from the rocks rolling off the mountains around us. This is such a harsh environment. I know danger is a constant concern, but we're determined to press on. I hope the words on the pages of this journal inspire future generations to explore this amazing place.
Some adventures are inspired by fame or fortune, and some by the pursuit of knowledge. But I've had the privilege of following in the footsteps of a man whose discoveries show the glory of the Creator. My name is Kenny Cole, and this is my story.
On June 1st, 1912, earthquakes were beginning to rock the little Indian village settlement of Katmai Village. Soon, families from this area would flee for their lives. The village was located on the Alaskan Peninsula across from Kodiak Island. Late in the evening on June 5th, observers at Cold Bay, 40 miles to the southwest, saw that the northern sky had turned black. Something big was about to happen.
First of all, I will let you know of our unlucky voyage. I do not know whether we shall be either alive or well. We are awaiting death at any moment. Of course, do not be alarmed. A mountain has burst near here, so that we are covered in ash, in some places 10 feet and 6 feet deep. All this began on the 6th of June. Night and day we light lamps. We cannot see daylight. In a word, it is terrible, and we are expecting death at any moment. And we have no water. All the rivers are covered in ash, just ashes mixed with water. Here are darkness, hell, and thunder, and noise. I do not know whether it is day or night. Vanka will tell you all about it. So kissing and blessing you both. Goodbye. Forgive me. Perhaps we shall see each other again. God is merciful. Pray for us.
This letter from a native fisherman named Ivan to his wife demonstrated the fear of those living in the area. Kodiak Island heard the blast and saw the ash cloud from 100 miles away. Ash fell for 3 days, covering the area. Another native living nearby, known as American Pete, reported,
Mount Katmai blew up with lots of fire, and fire came down the trail from Katmai with lots of smoke.
He and a few others immediately fled the town of Naknek. Some fleeing from Katmai village arrived in little boats filled with ash and pumice from the eruption that began on June 6th. They told stories of how they'd escaped hot rocks being hurled down from the sky. The darkness in Kodiak was so thick during the day of June 8th, it was impossible to see a lantern held at arm's length. The people of Kodiak Island were overcome with fear because they knew the horrible stories of the great eruption of Mount Vesuvius on Pompeii. On the afternoon of the 8th, they boarded the ship Manning and headed out to sea. The boat anchored outside the harbor, and with 500 people on board, there was hardly room to stand or move around. There they stood on the deck of that ship, hungry, thirsty, and scared for 2 days. People in Juneau, 750 miles away from the volcano, heard the eruption about an hour after it occurred. Nobody knew what was happening. For 2.5 days, tall, dark columns of ash and poisonous gases spewed into the air. Back on the peninsula, a river of superheated gases, ash, and volcanic material flowed from Novarupta, instantly killing all life for over 50 square miles and flattening the valley into a wide plain. Volcanic deposits averaged 656 feet thick in some places. Because of the remote location and the harsh wilderness left behind, Novarupta lay unobserved by human eyes for almost 3 years. That changed in 1916 when National Geographic sent in a team led by a Christian man by the name of Dr. Griggs. Dr. Robert Fisk Griggs was born in 1881 in Columbus, Ohio. He was the son of the engineer who built the Griggs Reservoir and Griggs Dam. He attended both Ohio State and Harvard. Later, Dr. Griggs was a professor of botany at the University of Ohio. The Griggs home was described as a citadel of Christian values based on love, fidelity, and truth. At the time of the eruption, he'd been doing a study of kelp along the Katmai coast. Wanting to study how plants would recover after a catastrophe like the volcanic eruption, he assembled a team of explorers. In total, Griggs led 3 expeditions funded by National Geographic. Their team faced many dangers like quicksand, pumice storms, and a treacherous climb up the caldera of Mount Katmai. Once in the middle of the night, high winds destroyed their base camp and lifted Griggs into the air only to drop him further down the valley, as the rest of the team fled for safety below. During their expeditions, Griggs and his team, sometimes including his wife Laura, documented the events of the eruption and mapped out the area. Their missions were such a success that Gilbert Grosvenor, the president and chairman of National Geographic at the time, said,
"Every member of the organization may thus derive considerable satisfaction that he or she has assisted to bring about such important additions to our knowledge of the young and active planet upon which we live."
Later, scientists would determine that Novarupta was 30 times more powerful than the eruption of Mount St. Helens and 3 times more powerful than Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines. As a botanist, Griggs lacked some of the expertise required to explore and understand a massive volcanic eruption. However, he more than made up for this by surrounding himself with a team of experts. Griggs also took a central role in having the Katmai region made into a national monument in 1918. Dr. and Mrs. Griggs had 4 children. On a 1919 expedition, Mrs. Griggs named 4 waterfalls in Katmai Valley after the children. Dr. Griggs compiled the data, images, and stories of their expeditions into a book published in 1922 by the name of The Valley of 10,000 Smokes. While that book had a profound impact on many at the time, God had an even bigger plan for that book almost 90 years later. Fast forward to present day, with another team of adventurous explorers. Completely unaware of the expeditions led almost a century earlier by Robert Griggs, they had no idea that his work was about to radically change their lives. One of these adventurers was Kenny Cole.
I guess I need to begin by introducing my stepdad, Dr. David Shorman.
Hi, my name is Dr. Shorman, and I'm a scientist. I'm a natural history researcher as well, and I do research on volcanoes, particularly Novarupta volcano.
Growing up with Dad can be summed up in one word: adventure. We were always going on an adventure, never just a trip.
Dr. Shorman, his family and friends, have done everything from fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, to conducting marine science camps for homeschoolers, to 7-day raft trips on Alaska rivers, to hiking through places no one has been in over 100 years.
Throughout these adventures, I learned that Dad's love of God and his amazing creation drove him to learn more about God and his Word by studying creation.